The 17th edition of the annual bilateral military exercise between India and Mongolia, Nomadic Elephant 2025, began on May 31, a day after Mongolia took a concrete step to revive a troika with China and Russia by signing a cooperation agreement with its two neighbors. Mongolia is a landlocked country bordering Russia to the north and China to the south, east, and west. Mongolia shares its border with Russia to the north, with a length of 3,485 kilometers. The southern, eastern, and western borders are with China, with a total border length of 4,630 kilometers. Mongolia is a landlocked country bordered only with Russia and China. Beijing has not taken this pre-scheduled military exercise kindly and has cautioned Mongolia against diplomatic independence. The wargames with India, according to a Chinese media outlet, cast a shadow of doubt over the power of Siberia 2 pipeline project from Russia to China, which will traverse through Mongolia. By strengthening ties with Mongolia, India has been keen to secure coking coal and critical minerals, such as copper and rare earth elements, by evading the traditional trading route through China. India is contemplating using Russia as the transportation corridor for these critical minerals. An article in China News Service, the second largest state-run media outlet in China, dating back to 2013, revealed Beijing's determination to reclaim territories lost during the Opium War of 1840–42. China and Mongolia share a complex relationship marked by historical grievances, significant trade and investment ties, and evolving geopolitical dynamics. China is Mongolia's largest trading partner and a major source of foreign investment, particularly in the mining sector. However, Mongolia also navigates its relationship with China while maintaining ties with Russia and seeking closer alignment with Western nations. Historical grievances, concerns about China's growing influence, and issues related to resource extraction and environmental impact remain points of contention. In 2016, China closed down a key border crossing with Mongolia after the visit of the Tibetan spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, to Ulaanbaatar. Beijing also imposed new tariffs on commodity shipments between China and Mongolia. Mongolia had been negotiating a loan with China to tide it over its acute financial troubles. But China cancelled talks to discuss the loan. Mongolia was hoping to get a $4.2 billion loan from Beijing. Landlocked Mongolia has been heavily dependent on China. At that time, China was by far Mongolia's biggest export destination. In 2013, China accounted for 90% of Mongolia's exports. It was also the largest source of imports for the Mongolian economy, accounting for 37.8% of the total in 2013, compared to Russia, which accounted for 27.6%. Minerals made up the majority of those exports, primarily copper and coal. Mongolia's geographic proximity to North Korea and Afghanistan makes it strategically important for the US. Against this backdrop, India-Mongolia relations have seen a notable increase. India established diplomatic relations in December 1955. India was the first country outside the Eastern Bloc to establish diplomatic relations with Mongolia. Since then, there have been treaties of mutual friendship and cooperation between the two countries in 1973, 1994, 2001 and 2004. Mongolia supports India's candidature as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, while India supported the inclusion of Mongolia as a full member of the non-aligned movement. Mongolia sought to foster strategic ties with India to counterbalance China's influence. The ties are part of the broader spectrum of the Sino-Indian geopolitical rivalry for influence with small and middle powers. Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Mongolia during his first term in 2015 and extended a credit line of $1 billion to Mongolia. In 2019, India and Mongolia signed agreements in the fields of outer space use for civilian purposes and disaster management. India has been pushing for enhanced economic cooperation with Mongolia to counterbalance Chinese interests and influence in the region, which has developed primarily due to China's financial assistance. New Delhi and Ulaanbaatar already have a civil nuclear deal in place since 2009, and the India-Mongolia Joint Working Group for Defense Cooperation meets annually. Mongolian military officers receive their training in India and participate in a joint military exercise called Nomadic Elephant. India also participates regularly in the multilateral exercise, Conquest, in Mongolia. The Nomadic Elephant 2025 is taking place at the Special Forces Training Center in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. The exercise will conclude on June 13, 2025, and will involve joint counter-terrorism drills in semi-mountainous terrain. The statement by the Indian Army called it a critical area of operational focus given the contemporary security landscape. The troops will also rehearse activities conducted during United Nations peacekeeping operations, simulating real-world situations where multinational forces must collaborate effectively in complex environments. This collaboration aims to improve both forces' ability to respond swiftly and effectively during operations, the statement added. Russia and China are collaborating on a $100 billion gas pipeline, dubbed Power of Siberia 2, to transport 50 billion cubic meters, BCM, of natural gas annually from Russia to China via Mongolia. The pipeline is directly related to the success or failure of Russia's eastward energy strategy. The project, which was supposed to be a key opportunity for Mongolia to deepen its cooperation with China and Russia, is now likely to face more uncertainty because of Mongolia's desire for diplomatic independence, the Chinese blogger commented. Now, Mongolia's dependence on China is nearly 70%. Almost all resources, such as coal, copper ore, and rare earths, rely on the Chinese market, while Mongolia is also heavily dependent on Russia's energy supply and infrastructure construction. Mongolia have no option. Stuck between China and Russia, it wants to get out of this helpless situation, but it cannot be separated from the economic support of the two countries. India play Buddhism card to attract Mongolian government and people. India appointed one of the most prominent Buddhist leaders of independent India, Kushok Bakula, as ambassador to Mongolia. He played a very important role which has been credited with the revival of Buddhism in Mongolia following the collapse of the Soviet Union. He was India's ambassador to Mongolia from 1990 to 2000. During his tenure, the Indian High Commission not only had long queues for visa approvals but also of devotees seeking his blessings. India's strong presence in the region mark a clear message to both Russia and China, that India standing in the middle of the scene.